Welcome back in the OutKick studios. You may hear it in my voice. I'm about to have some fun. Every now and then, there is an opinion that is so dumb, it pierces through all of the noise and actually just crystallizes the absurdity of why this show is successful. And in case you're wondering out there, one reason this show succeeds is because there are so many people out there making ludicrous arguments every day in the world of college and pro sports that they can't possibly believe themselves in an effort to virtue signal to everyone else. That occasionally you see an opinion. I know almost every single one of you, guy, girl, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whoever you are, you're like, there's no way that the dude who is saying this or the girl who is saying this can possibly believe what they are saying. And this happened to me yesterday when I read a column in the New York Times arguing, I swear to God, this is what the story argues, that the University of Connecticut is the real national champion this year, not Alabama or Ohio State, but the University of Connecticut, because they were brave enough not to play college football this year. Okay, here is the open of this piece, all right? It ran in the New York Times yesterday. Who will be college football's next national champion, Alabama or Ohio State? The correct answer should be neither. The team we should be cheering won't be on the field at Hard Rock Stadium near Miami next Monday. The real champion, the University of Connecticut, which was the first team to decide it wasn't safe enough to play during the coronavirus. And then there's several different paragraphs here, but I'm going to dive into them because this is all so absurd, okay? And here is a couple of the quotes that I want to dive into, all right? Maybe we shouldn't have been confronted with the immoral sight of unpaid athletes bereft of labor and health protections pushed to the field as an entertainment product in the support of a billion-dollar industry. If more coaches were willing to take such a stand, maybe we could have avoided the folly of college football during the pandemic, the airplane trips, hotel stays, and games played on campuses that were drenched in virus. Maybe we could have avoided the cancellations and the sickness that spread to players, coaches, and support staff. All of this is absolutely patently absurd. I'm reading from the quote, reading from the article right now. So this is what I kind of talked about, what I called the Corona Bros in the sports media. They trot out these virtue signaling absurdities, which are completely unsupported when you unpack what they are saying in this argument, okay? First of all, the argument that Connecticut deserves a national championship for not playing is the height of absurdity, okay? That's like me arguing that I deserve a Pulitzer Prize for the column that I didn't write, or I deserve a Marconi for the radio show that I didn't do, okay? American life is predicated on rewarding achievement. Achievement requires action. One of the things that frustrates me the most about the last year or so as it pertains to athletics is we have moved even closer to the idea, which has already become popular in other spheres, that doing nothing is brave. That's the exact opposite of what most of American history is about. That's like saying the brave thing to do would have been to not get on that ship and become an immigrant and come to America because it was dangerous. The brave thing to do would not have been to go on the Oregon Trail and set out west. It would have been to stay in the big city where you already were. America is about taking risk, embracing opportunity, finding ways to make things happen, not about curling up in the fetal position and saying, this is impossible to do. Mind you, this article is not being written in August. It's being written in January after all of these college football conferences proved that it was possible to play a season without significant health issues. Guys, there's nobody who was hospitalized in high school, college, or pro in the entire country that we can trace to getting the COVID from athletic competition. There isn't anyone in the world, according to Dr. Alan Sills, who is the NFL's chief medical expert, that they have been able to trace getting COVID from competition. Every school except for 3 that plays major college football found a way to play other than Connecticut, Old Dominion, and New Mexico State. To me, we should be ridiculing the 3 schools that didn't find a way to play, not ridiculing the 127 that found a way to play safely. And the things that are being argued in this column are not true. The airplane trips, hotel stays, and games played that were drenched in virus. The folly. Isn't American life about finding a way to overcome obstacles? Maybe we wouldn't have been confronted with the immoral sight, the New York Times writes, of unpaid athletes bereft of labor and health protections pushed to the field. They weren't pushed to the field. They had a choice. And almost every college athlete and their parents said, we want to play this year. And by the way, it wasn't just football. All fall sports were able to play, most of whom have athletes that none of us have ever heard of before, but would have also been shut down, but for finding a way to play football, which paved the way for every sport to be played. We talked a lot on this show about the Big Ten and the Pac-12 getting back for college football, but that also allowed a lot of other athletes to play their sports. And I don't understand this perpetual desire to seek out victims. It's one of the big flaws of American life today. And it's represented by this New York Times article saying that UCONN deserves to be named national champion because they were the bravest by choosing to do nothing. Since when has bravery been defined exclusively as a failure to do something, as a refusal to do something? It's a really backwards way of thinking. And I see it being trotted out there more and more in both athletics and our larger society as a whole. It's not brave to fail to take a risk. It's not brave to say something is unsafe. There's no way for us to figure out how to do this. Bravery requires assessing risk and smartly finding a way, even with that risk out there, to attempt to achieve something that hasn't been achieved before. And when I see stories like these and the push that is out there to find victims everywhere, guys and girls, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, the goal that I was taught was to avoid being a victim. Sports success is about the opposite of victimization. It's about looking within yourself and finding a way to triumph. It's about working together with your teammates and finding a way to achieve excellence that you otherwise didn't believe was possible. There are a lot of you out there listening to me right now who have had successes in your life because of your ability to play sports. Do you know how many of us were knuckleheads and wouldn't have stayed eligible in school but for a team or a coach? Do you know how many kids out there are struggling right now because the idiot politicians in their state aren't allowing them to be in school and aren't allowing them to play sports? And we're calling that bravery? We're praising people who are saying we can't do it when there are countless other examples of people finding a way to get it done? I'm genuinely troubled when I see articles like these that are rooted in unfounded fear, paranoia, and victimization culture. And I'm doubly troubled when I see it finding its way into athletics, because to me, sports are one of the last stands that we have for a culture that values risk and teamwork and finding ways to overcome obstacles. The University of Connecticut and New Mexico State and Old Dominion were the only three schools that weren't able to find a way to smartly and safely play college football. Rather than praising them for that decision, we should be castigating them. We should be ridiculing them. We should be asking why they couldn't find a way when everybody else did find a way. And ultimately, I think that shame is what led the Big Ten and the Pac-12 back to play, because they realized, credit to the SEC, credit to the Big 12, credit to the ACC, that just because the Big Ten said they weren't going to play, everybody else wasn't going to follow them in running and jumping right off a cliff into oblivion and claiming there was no other option out there. And credit to the NFL for finding a way to play, and the NBA, and Major League Baseball, and the NHL, and the first guy that I saw it doing it, Dana White, in the UFC. He found a way to get things done. That's what America's all about. And so when I see all of this embrace of failure, and even worse, praising of failure, and even worse than that, equating a failure to act and a failure to come up with a safe and reasonable plan to allow athletics to occur as a symbol of courage and bravery, it's just not true. It's a fundamental fallacy, and it utterly disgusts me. College football was worth playing. High school sports were worth playing. They're worth fighting for. And credit to all the people who were willing to do it, and shame on all the people like the New York Times and all the other Corona bros in sports media who tried to keep it from happening. And the reason why millions of you are listening to this program every single week and every single month is because you might not agree with me on every single moment, but you agree with me on enough issues that go to the essence of why sports matter. And these idiots at the New York Times and other places arguing the opposite are pure imbeciles peddling balderdash.